The stock market plunged today amid fears over the coronavirus, with trading briefly stopped and the Dow Jones dropping more than 2,000 points at times. And the Florida Health Department is now asking some international travelers to self-isolate for 2 weeks after returning here. The major differences between that advisory and the one Florida health officials put out earlier in the day. Plus, the mixed messages after the State Department urged all Americans to avoid taking cruises because of the coronavirus. The vice president says we should expect some major changes to cruising this week to make it safer for everyone. Good afternoon, I'm Vanessa Eccles.
And I'm Greg Wormuth. That message came within 24 hours of another message from the State Department telling people not to cruise. Here is the latest on COVID-19. According to the State Health Department, 13 people were diagnosed in Florida, including one woman in Volusia County. 5 people were diagnosed and isolated in another state. 2 people have died. 115 test results in Florida are still pending, and 302 people are currently being monitored. Channel 9's Lauren Seabrook has been following the spread of this virus for us extensively, and she joins us in studio. Lauren, the State Health Department put out a pretty shocking advisory earlier today.
Greg, originally the department sent us a release saying it was advising everyone who travels internationally to self-isolate when they return to the U.S. for 14 days. But then 2 hours later, it changed its tone. It's now saying anyone who travels to countries considered level 3 are mandated to self-isolate for 2 weeks, and anyone who goes on a cruise ship anywhere or travels to a country considered level 2 should limit interactions with others for 14 days and is advised to self-isolate if you become symptomatic. The cruise industry is a multi-billion-dollar part of Florida's economy, and stocks for companies like Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Princess, and Norwegian sank over the last month. Many of them are down 20% just today. One day after the U.S. State Department told U.S. citizens, particularly travelers with underlying health conditions, they should not travel by cruise ship. The CDC notes an increased risk of infection of COVID-19 in a cruise ship environment. But the messages are mixed because just 24 hours before the State Department put out that warning, Vice President Mike Pence was in Florida side by side with cruise leaders.
To ask them to step up their efforts to protect the health and safety of their passengers, their crews, and the communities to which they all return.
Pence says this week we can expect to see significant changes to cruising. He says companies will be enhancing the entry and exit screening process, testing on board for the coronavirus, discussing new quarantine standards with the CDC, and working with the federal government on ways to transport anyone who tests positive to a land facility. He also reminded the American public
the cruise line industry has a strong public health record and has been a strong partner in maritime security with the United States Coast Guard.
And our governor is expected to speak about coronavirus at 5 o'clock today. I'll be listening to that press conference, and we'll have any updates for you on Eyewitness News at 5 and 6. Vanessa.
All right, we'll check back in with Vanessa in a second, but Disney officials say they're also keeping a close eye on the coronavirus. The company's chief medical officer says the park is taking precautions like special training for cast members, more frequent cleanings, and easy access to hand sanitizer. Disney says it also asked people staying in touch with health officials to talk about ways to prevent exposure to the virus in all of its theme parks. And some parts of Disney's resorts in Shanghai are back open actually today. The park shut down at the end of January because of the rising number of coronavirus cases in China. Some shopping and dining attractions are now open to guests, but with a limited capacity and shorter hours of operation. Guests are also required to undergo temperature screenings and wear masks during their entire visit. The theme park itself is still closed until further notice.
We're following some breaking national news right now. The Dow Jones just closed down more than 2,000 points as anxiety over the coronavirus and an international oil price war caused a stock market plunge on Wall Street. Trading was even forced to stop briefly because of today's drop. As ABC's Andrew Fugii reports, President Trump continues to downplay the risk.
Minutes after the opening bell, the stock market took a nosedive, down almost 2,000 points, more than 7%, kicking in an automatic trading stop amid fears of the coronavirus and an oil price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia. Trading resumed before 10 a.m., but still with heavy losses. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar confident the U.S. response to the crisis will help the stock market rebound.
They've got tools to deal with that. but the public health and protecting the American people is the #1 priority.
The number of COVID-19 cases globally is now at more than 110,000. Here in the U.S., there are more than 500 confirmed cases and nearly 24 deaths. New York State with the most cases.
The fear and the hysteria is outpacing the reality of this situation.
Now, concerns the virus has spread to Washington, D.C. Someone who attended a conservative conference last week where President Trump and Vice President Pence spoke has now tested positive for the illness. President Trump says he and close advisors haven't been tested.
No, I'm not concerned at all.
But GOP members of Congress who did interact with that attendee are now in self-quarantine. Meanwhile, the Grand Princess, kept off the coast of San Francisco, is docked in the port of Oakland, and everyone aboard will be quarantined. 19 crew and 2 passengers tested positive for COVID-19. Overseas, drastic measures in Italy, who have the most confirmed cases besides China. 16 million people restricted from leaving their towns and cities without special permission.
The threat of a pandemic has become very real. But it would be the first pandemic in history that could be controlled.
Andrea Fujii, ABC News, New York.
And we'll have the final closing numbers on Wall Street coming up in the next 30 minutes.
Today, Volusia County leaders met to talk about how that county is going to respond to COVID-19. This comes after a 66-year-old woman from Volusia County is believed to be a presumptive positive for the coronavirus. Channel 9's Volusia County reporter Mike Springer was at that meeting. And Mike, what is being done?
Well, right now the county says it is just monitoring this virus here. They did have a closed-door meeting earlier this morning, Greg, to kind of discuss their plan for this. But they say right now the best thing people can do is simply follow those recommendations already in place by the CDC and the Department of Health to help mitigate the spread of the virus.
There's so many questions.
Volusia County and city leaders got together to discuss the coronavirus for the first time today during their monthly meeting of elected officials. It comes more than 48 hours after the Florida Department of Health says a 66-year-old Volusia County woman who recently traveled outside of the country is a presumptive positive.
The single most important thing people can do is wash their hands. We need the public's help as much as the public needs our help. So that comes down to individual responsibility.
During the meeting, the Florida Department of Health provided leaders with a statewide update, but declined to say where in the county the woman who is a presumptive positive lives, what country she traveled to, or how long she was back in Florida, citing privacy concerns. The county stressed its major events like Bike Week and Spring Break are not being canceled because of the virus. We do have a lot of big county events going on right now. You have Spring Break, you have Bike Week, any extra precautions being taken because of all those people coming here for these events?
What we're saying is, again, to just do individual hand washing to try to make sure that you're trying to stop germs and do the best you can with avoid touching your face.
Health officials added some commercial labs will also be able to test for the coronavirus with a doctor's referral. Now, the superintendent of schools, Dr. Scott Fritz, was also at that meeting there. I did ask him exactly how the school district is planning to respond to this and also what it plans to do should students have prolonged absences. I'll have his answer for you coming up on Eyewitness News at 5. For now, reporting live in Volusia County, Mike Springer, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Florida officials now have access to $25 million to fight COVID-19 on a state level. House and Senate leaders announced this weekend they agreed to Governor Ron DeSantis' request for those funds. Officials have not said exactly what the money will be used for, but that it will be spent on whatever is needed most. Officials say that could be things like lab supplies, protective equipment, or additional staff. Now, the concerns about the coronavirus have also caused gas prices, believe it or not, to drop as well across the country. And now we're working to find out if they could go even lower. And we'll have that part of the coronavirus story at 4:30. And you can also find out about more resources and all of our coverage on COVID-19. It's on WFTV.com. We have created a special section that you can find by clicking the coronavirus banner at the top of the homepage.
And if you have a question about the coronavirus, you can call the Florida Department of Health. The number is on your screen right now. Here it is, 1-866-779-6121.